This president doesn't have good faith disagreement and these orders. He does not care. He is a lawless criminal. And we have basically a criminal regime. And if you believe that they are going to abide by court orders, they're not going to do it. They're already probably trying to slide around the court orders. One of the things that he's a narcissistic sociopath. That's the thing everyone has to kind of get used to. It's the reason why you cannot normalize him. You cannot treat him like a normal human being because he's not. He is unwell. And that's why he can't follow. He's not going to be able to follow his lawyer's directions. That's why, he played right into the plaintiff's hands in the E. Jean Carroll case. They're trying to show basically he's a jerk. And what does he do?
George Conway, the man who has tortured Trump's fragile ego for years, has exploded the truth bomb that we have all been waiting for. Something genuinely unfathomable just happened live on national television. And this time, Trump was unable to spin it, suppress it, or storm off against the man. However, it was not only about the failing presidency of Trump or the instability in the legal system. By exposing the deeply buried cracks in Trump's so-called marriage and revealing the cold, staged partnership with Melania that now appears to be more of a business deal than a bond, Conway went for the jugular. The manner in which he said it, which was calm, clinical, and directed directly to the camera, made it feel less like commentary and more like a public autopsy of Trump's entire personal life. During this time, Trump was raging inside. I suppose that...
I guess they don't like me, but let me just tell you, these are losers from day one. Guys like Bill Kristol, he's 0-32. George Conway, you take a look at him. Just take a look at that guy. The man's a stone-cold loser. So they should not call it the Lincoln Project. It's not fair to Abraham Lincoln, a great president. They should call it the Losers Project. Okay, thanks.
One of the things that is sort of interesting about the Trump people is they're not loyal to each other, and not even to Trump in some ways. I don't mean the Trump voters, but I mean the people around him. They are all as self-interested as him. They are all trying to make money by acting as gatekeepers to Trump.
It is Trump! It's not only that George Conway was a shadow thrower. While sitting firmly across from the cameras of MSNBC, Conway proved that Trump's public image was nothing more than a fake performance. He did this by turning on a spotlight and destroying every illusion that surrounded the Trump marriage. In this case, there is no love tale. It is all about brand management, according to Conway. It was revealed to him that Melania had mastered the art of silence not out of loyalty, but rather for the purpose of survival. Every eye roll, every single hand swipe, and every single icy kiss. Conway explained that it was planned detachment, not marital hardship, and that while Trump's legal teams are fighting on one front, his personal charade is breaking live on camera. Conway would not speculate about the underlying cause of the situation. Because of the patterns he drew out and the precise maneuvers he made, even the most experienced anchors became silent.
The other thing that he did was to show that this is his modus operandi. He's willing to use the threat of violence or to incite violence in order to coerce government officials to either forego enforcing the law against him or to, violate the law as he sought to have Pence and members of Congress do on January 6th.
Conway, however, was not yet finished. Using the precision of a surgeon, instead of portraying Melania Trump as a victim, he portrayed her as a silent strategist who played a role in Trump's climb to power. When Trump's world collapsed, Melania vanished, he alluded to her uncanny disappearances throughout significant scandals like Daniels, Access Hollywood, and the E. Jean Carroll trial. He said that Melania fled every time Trump's world collapsed. In the same way that a brand manager would pull the plug on a faulty product, Conway questioned whether Melania's quiet was an indication that she is involved in the situation or that she is attempting to protect herself from the eventual impact. Conway arranged everything in such a way that it resembled a prosecutor reading from evidence. Including the timing of her public appearances, she made statements that were dispassionate, and she used body language. The rumor was not true. The dismantling of the Trump household was carried out in a chilly and measured manner.
First of all, you're ruining your own reputation. Secondly, you're betraying your profession, your professional oath. Thirdly, you are betraying your country because you're doing harm to your country, because you're creating the impression that this administration cannot be fought for all of the illegalities that we've been talking about. Right. This is an administration that is punishing people because the president is a convicted felon and is angry that he was almost brought to justice, and he wants to inflict harm on the government, and also his people he wants to inflict harm on our legal system, and he also wants to deter people from fighting back to all the illegal things he's doing. And when you capitulate to him, you are encouraging them to send more people to El Salvador, including potentially American citizens, because they want to create a system where everybody's too afraid to provide legal services to fight against the illegality. And one more thing here is, they're doing this because of money. Money, and here's what's going on with this. The firms that are capitulating, and I know this because I spent 30 years practicing at a law firm that did mergers and acquisitions work, okay? And it's a very lucrative form of work, and you get paid only if the deals go through. And you get paid a significant amount, a percentage of the deal. It's lucrative business, and it's fine business in ordinary times. And they're afraid that the government won't approve the deals of their clients. Well, sorry, guys, you're destroying your reputation in an environment where there aren't going to be any deals because the president is destroying the economy and the U.S. dollar. So you are doubly foolish.
Irrational. What startled viewers was not just what Conway said, it was what he implied. He almost verified the allegations that were circulating about Trump's deteriorating mental health, the paranoid outbursts, and the uncontrollable breakdowns that took place behind closed doors. On the other hand, Conway asserted that Melania is quite knowledgeable but prefers to avoid conflict. He made the statement that she is guarding one item on her own, and then, without skipping a beat, he posed a scary hypothetical. Even if Melania has been recording everything, what would that mean? That inquiry landed like a grenade on the head. Could it be that the former First Lady is quietly amassing leverage and getting ready to leave the country? Nobody anticipates what is going to happen. There was a surge on social media. If Conway is correct, the next betrayal will not come from the courts. Rather, it will come from Melania Trump. This is the reason why even Trump's allies fell into an unusually calm disposition. They
don't want to obey laws, they don't want to obey rules, they don't think they apply to them. And Donald Trump has no moral conscience and no empathy. He does not care about anybody else other than Donald Trump. Which is why, in his first term, he said, Article 2 lets me do whatever I want. Article 2 of the Constitution. The first Trump term, which I call Shit Show 1, was an assault on the rule of law, but it was only like it was like cancer. It was like a stage 1, maybe stage 2. We got to stage 2 right around January 6th. And he was a threat to the rule of law. And then he went into remission.
It wasn't just a personal attack. This takedown was also a strategic one. The most sensitive flaw that Trump possesses is his fixation with control and loyalty. And according to Conway, Melania Trump's quietness is Trump's greatest concern. This is not because Melania is silent. Rather, it is because she knows too much. It is not because she will testify that Conway referred to her as the most dangerous witness alive. Rather, it is because she is not required to testify. The power lies in her quiet, despite the fact that she has witnessed everything, including the threats, the bribes, and the breakdowns. There was a moment of utter clarity that occurred. It's possible that Trump's political conflicts may continue, but the actual struggle may be fought in his own home. And if Melania ever gives birth, or even worse, walks out of the house, it's not simply that Trump will lose a wife. Illusions of his dominion will be destroyed for him.
After Donald Trump won in 2016, your name was floated as someone who might work in his administration. You turned that down, and
I was offered the job of head of the Civil Division of the Department of Justice. and I filled out all the forms. They ran my background check, and I was interviewing people who were going to work underneath me. I was sort of far along there, and then I just started having this queasy feeling like I don't really want to work in this administration, because what I saw was a shit show and a dumpster fire. And I just got to the point where I just couldn't do it. And so I didn't. And I was one of the best decisions I'd ever made. Okay, I admit I was wrong to support Donald Trump in 2016. I was horribly wrong. It was a horrible exercise in judgment. I knew better. I should have known better.
There was no need for George Conway to yell in order to create a stir. He allowed the truth to be hurtful to him. One of the anchors referred to it as a televised analysis of the Trump brand. As Trump continues to sink deeper into legal and political catastrophe, Conway explained how Melania has remained eerily silent throughout this entire process. Nevertheless, he did not portray her as a bystander who was not guilty. It's not simply that she's putting up with the insanity. His warning was that she was timing her leave. He brought attention to the fact that Melania has meticulously built a persona of disinterest, while simultaneously keeping the legal protections and financial leverage of a first lady. He also brought up the prenuptial renegotiations, the distance during rallies, the icy body language, and all of the indicators among other things. It was indicated by Conway that she is awaiting the appropriate time to disappear on her own, having leverage in one's power, a stage.
Stage 3 is basically where we are ignoring laws and running roughshod over laws. I mean, you know, they're basically refusing to spend money appropriated by Congress, which is against the law. The law requires the president to spend money. The president can't not spend the money that's been allocated for particular subjects. And you've got this guy who's not been appointed lawfully under the Constitution.
Let's talk about that.
Musk. Yep. And so that's stage 3. Stage 4 is going to be, well, these courts are telling me not to obey orders. Why should I? I don't want to obey the law, so why am I obeying the courts? And stage 4 is metastasis. Stage 4 is when democracy can die, and the rule of law can die, and constitutionalism can die. And we unless something happens radically, I can't see how we don't get to stage 4, because the logical path that they are taking, which is that the law doesn't apply to us and nobody can enforce the law against us.
After that, Conway made the statement that many viewers considered to be the true bombshell. She said that Melania may be Trump's ultimate insurance policy or his ultimate undoing. He is beyond frightened of her. That line, according to Conway, caused a firestorm on social media, but it was not emotionally or politically charged. Rather than being frightened by prosecutors or the media, Conway explained that Trump's ego is being challenged by the one person who has seen everything and said nothing about it. It is not necessary for Melania to speak. There is a weapon in her silence. It suggests guilt, manipulation, and even betrayal, and Conway claimed that Trump lives in continual worry that she will start talking about it at some point in the future. It was unnecessary for the cameras to cut away because everyone who was watching was aware that this was more than simply commentary. This was a cautionary note. You
don't want to diagnose him, but I think if you look at the diagnostic criteria for narcissistic personality disorder and antisocial personality disorder, he fits every single one of them. It's like the criteria were made to describe him. And I think what we saw with this tweet yesterday is that last final collapse of Donald Trump's mental state. I mean, you think about it, those were like 50, 60, 70,000 people in the aggregate in five rallies in different states. That's loopier than saying that the moon landings were staged, because there were tens of thousands of people were there. To think that is crazy, and to try to sell it to people is just as crazy. He's done. His brain is...
While the interview was still going on, although he became contemplative, Conway maintained his razor sharpness. While he was describing his own sorrow for earlier backing Trump, he also mentioned that watching Melania work brought to his mind how the entire Trump machine depends on transactional loyalty with its supporters. It is all about leverage. According to him, viewers were surprised when Conway drew analogies between Trump's legal tactics and his marriage. He stated that this occurred in the courtroom as well as in the bedroom. According to his argument, Melania may be following the same script, but for a totally different end goal. She may be delaying, denying, or distracting anyone. She is able to gain power by being silent. She accumulates proof by remaining near to the person, such as the quiet glances, the symbolic clothing, and the frigid handshakes. These were not random occurrences. It was a type of signal. In addition, Conway made it quite obvious that she may be the most significant unnoticed participant in the demise of Trump.
Tara Sheckman wants to know from you, George, do you expect Trump to target you and other staff of the Lincoln Project? And if so, do you have a defense plan?
I don't have a defense plan other than whatever he pulls up is going to be meritless. My finances are simple. It won't, I don't fear him. And I think one of the things that that people don't quite understand about Trump, but they really should, is the fact that he's a bully and he wants to pick on people who won't fight back.
To return. It was at that point that the conversation took a more sinister tone. Melania Trump will not simply leave the White House if she makes the decision to do so, according to Conway, who cautioned that when Trump is surrounded and exposed, he becomes unstable and even dangerous. While she is leaving, she is going to blow up everything. If she speaks, the battle is finished. In response to Conway's forthright statement, the room fell into complete silence. It wasn't about cheating on your partner, and it wasn't about being embarrassed. It was about the secrets she's seen behind closed doors, the rage, the lies, the manipulation. Conway suggested Melania might hold the final thread that unravels the myth of Trump's invincibility, and for the first time, even Trump's most loyal followers felt a chill, because the idea that Melania could turn, that she's already planning it, that changes everything.
He's a sociopath, and it's one of the things about sociopath is that they don't plan, they don't think, they just emote, and they're impulsive, and they act on their whims and impulses, and the last person who talked to them. And that's why and then also they have the power, they love the power, the feeling of power that they get when they say, I'm turning this on, I'm turning this off, I'm turning the lights out, I'm turning the lights on, I'm raising tariffs, I'm lowering tariffs, I'm telling everybody in Tehran, 10 million people to evacuate. I'm telling them they're safe for now. Okay? He gets off on that, and then he gets bored with what he said yesterday. And of course, he doesn't necessarily remember what he says or care what he says yesterday. So tomorrow's going to be something else.
In any case, and here's the catch, Conway didn't say it outright, but he did leave it hanging in the air like a warning shot. If Melania had already switched, what would happen? Is it possible that her absence from Trump's campaign is not due to distance, but rather to preparation? Conway referred to her moves as intentional, and he referred to her quiet as deliberate. With that single comment, he completely altered their story. Trump's protection is not the reason Melania is staying. She is remaining in order to survive him, and if the circumstance ever arises, her silence will not be a sign of weakness. Rather, it will be the calm before the storm. Melania Trump, who was formerly considered a silent accessory, may very well be the final domino that brings the entire empire crashing down. Conway's takedown was not just about a marriage, it was about the disintegrating mythos of Trump's power.
This is Donald Trump leading the Republican Party off the cliff. This is a man for whom there is no bottom, and Republicans are just afraid to call him out. He's saying we're in the middle of this war where Putin, who can't be trusted for a moment, who murders political opponents, who slaughters women and children, and Donald Trump is focused on what? Himself? Because he wants to get revenge for losing the 2020 election. He says, let's see their dirt on Hunter Biden. I wonder someday that maybe we won't have a president in Russia who actually acts in the best interest of the Russian people and behaves himself before the world. Maybe President Navalny. I mean, pray to God that somehow that could happen. And maybe we'll see the files on Donald Trump. I think those would be interesting.
Oh, would be a fascinating topic, and at the precise moment when the nation believed that things could not possibly get any more humiliating for the former president, George Conway dropped a bomb of truth that struck directly at the core of Trump's greatest insecurity, which was his manhood and relevancy on live television. Conway did not merely criticize Trump's failure in the political arena, his very legacy was called into question. Again, there is no need to impeach President Trump. According to Conway, history has already forgotten about him. As soon as the camera moved to the host, unable to contain his laughter, the internet went into a frenzy. A surgical, quiet, controlled, and crushing takedown was delivered by Conway. It was not a loud takedown. Every phrase was like a scalpel, chiseling away at the tiny bit of dignity that Trump still possessed. It is said that Melania Trump, who was watching everything unfold, left the room in the middle of the show. The stillness that ensued in Trump Tower must have been deafening.
Absolutely. I do think that. I think it was most propitious timing. I think this needed to be done no matter who the Democratic nominee was, for the simple reason that Donald Trump has been getting basically this easy pass double standard on his behavior, because we've seen so much of it and it's basically been normalized, even though it's completely bizarre. We almost kind of don't bat an eyelash at him talking about sharks and electrocution and Hannibal Lecter. I mean, he's been doing crazy stuff like that for years. So he has this weird advantage, and that's part of the advantage. The other part of the advantage is that people are afraid to talk about mental health issues of any sort, lest they give offense or they don't want to stigmatize people. But I mean, this is just so different. I mean, this is the man, the question, this is the question of the mental stability of somebody who would have control of the second largest nuclear arsenal on the planet. I mean, this is just, you just can't look at it the same.
However, that was not the end of it. He questioned the hypocrisy of a woman who promotes kindness while remaining silent through years of public cruelty. He said that the silence from some corners was not just complicity, it was comfort. Conway circled back to the issue that Melania is most concerned about, which is the Be Best campaign. He did not name Melania directly. The reference was quickly recognized by the audience. However, former sources whispered to tabloids that Melania felt personally targeted, despite the fact that her camp declined to comment. Over the course of many years, she had been walking the fine line between being a victim and having privilege. But Conway's remarks had the potential to utterly throw her off balance. The public unraveling of what had begun as a political takedown was becoming increasingly difficult to ignore, and people couldn't stop watching Donald.
Donald Trump has never, ever been right in the head.
The late, great Hannibal Lecter.
He's a wonderful man.
An enormous, really an ominous.
We got up! And then they announced there was no buys, no.
We've endorsed JP, right? J.D. Mandel.
Take a look at the oranges of the investigation.
Venezuela.
If you have a windmill anywhere near your house, they say the noise causes cancer.
I know more about wind than you do.
I don't know what I said.
Joe Biden won against Barack Hussein Obama.
They have voter ID. They have ID on everything. You buy a loaf of bread, you have ID. The first non-incumbent.
The kidney has a very special place in the heart.
We appreciate it very much, Tim Apple.
People are flushing toilets 10 times, 15 times, as opposed to one.
Injection inside or almost a cleaner.
That an illegal one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Learn more at psychopac.org.
This was followed by the surprise blow. Conway revealed the ultimate contradiction, a man who is obsessed with control, who is losing his grip on everything, including his party, his image, and possibly even his marriage. He is a man who is unable to hang on to the truth, let alone his own family. Conway made a statement that sent Twitter into a state of meltdown within minutes, and the phrase "Palette Melania knows" became trending. Every political thread, podcast, and YouTube video had the term in some form or another. The headline: did it it involve conjecture? However, the expression that appeared on Trump's face the next time he was seen in public, a face that was flushed, his lips were tightly closed, and his fists were clenched, told a very different narrative. The country was no longer merely laughing at Trump after a while. Their analysis of his fall from grace was taking place in real time. There was more to Conway's takedown than just what he said. It was also extremely harsh. What he did not mention is the issue. He left permission for the audience to fill in the blanks, implying that Melania may already be gone in spirit and that Trump's own crew, his family, and his allies had abandoned ship. He provided the audience with the opportunity to create their own interpretations. At this moment, you can hear the despair in his voice, in his outbursts, and in the manner that he clings to threads that aren't even there. Conway noted that even conservative pundits flinched at the truth of his statements. Not only was the story evolving, but it was not. Things were falling apart. Throughout his entire career, Trump had always portrayed himself as the strong man. However, his stronghold appeared to be more of a glass house, and Conway was dropping bricks. And as the night came to a close, Conway delivered the ultimate blow by looking directly into the camera and saying the one thing that Trump would never want to hear. He is no longer feared by anyone. He is pitying himself. It was as if the weight of the truth had settled like dust over a name that had been untouchable before the crowd became silent. There was no laughter. Pity is political death for a man like Trump. It takes away power, it erodes influence, and worst of all, it invites mockery for Melania. The pity may come with a price that Melania can no longer avoid, because once the world begins viewing you as a prop in someone else's downfall, it doesn't take long before the seas begin asking why you stayed. Melania may be unable to avoid the price. Moreover, Melania might not be able to avoid answering that question for the rest of her life. It is the